All right, guys, today we're going to do the last comic book review of this year of 2023. We're closing this out with World's Finest Comic, issue 304, starring Superman and Batman, and with probably my new favorite villains that nobody's heard before, Null and Void. So I made, not long ago, a couple of weeks ago, I think, I made a comic with, their first appearances, right? And this is more like a follow-up, not a direct sequel, because this was a 293. So there's a couple of issues between it. But we not only see the origin of Null and Void, but also things that happened after that. It is in connection with Null and Void. So without further ado, let's dive in. So it seems that Null, or also known as Peter, I don't know his last name again, but he's been arrested because Batman and Superman just caught him, and he's admitting that he was robbing jewelry, let's say, and the jewelry was very important to Superman because I believe it was an heirloom from his mother, right? And he's becoming his own lawyer, I guess, and he's taking Superman and Batman to court, right? And so this is basically the recap here. And he says, you are the one who presses charges against me, right? True. Batman and I caught you in possession of stolen locket. His locket. If it please the court, yet who really is he? This Superman. How can I, an American citizen, be persecuted by this alien from the stars? I submit his testimony cannot be admitted as evidence. As for the locket, what is its real, not emotional value? And then he's calling Batman to the stand, and he says, hey, can you unmask yourself? And Batman says, don't be ridiculous. So Peter says, am I to understand that the masked man with questionable rights to testify under the Constitution is the only other witness? It's clear to me there are no material witness to the alleged crime. In fact, I could bring charges of my own for harassment, but I'm a forgiving man. And so Batman pleads his case, but it's denied. And then the judge says, may I remind you both of this is a court of law. We are not trained on hearsay or hunch. The accused is a very worldly, wealthy man. It doesn't seem likely he wants to steal a cheap locket. Now, mind you, I took your word, but the evidence is just too slim to prosecute. So he says, see you around, boys. So he walks out. And Batman and Superman are not happy. So, and then Batman thinks that, he's gonna, he doesn't trust it, so he's gonna, spy on him or gonna follow him, right? And he says, I'm not letting off the hook because he thinks there's way more. So he's, just basically stalking him. And Peter says, I bet I could beat Batman if I only had my powers. And then we go to the other Void, who is in the last issue, in this issue, not the last one, but in this issue, he's got a call from the IRS. And he lost now basically everything. He lost his wife, he lost his money. He's basically a broke man, right? And so he says, if Peter can only see me now. He always said I played it too safe. He didn't understand my values, the things that were important to me, like my wife and kids and security, right? And and then we have a rewind in history, how these guys came to be. So it seems that Saul here, he was the son of a wealthy businessman, but he can't do business. It was a little bit out of his wheelhouse. So, and then he tried to become a sailor, and that went up wrong too. And then a storm got him, and he's just been crashing into, he's being shipwrecked, and he crashed into, he washed ashore at a place called Martinique that is somewhere in France, right? But it's been occupied by, the Germans back in the day, because this was in World War II. So he's been thrown in jail. I later learned that during the war, Martinique was a Casablanca for the Caribbean, jump point for refugees trying to make their way to freedom. When the Nazis found out I was American, the authority held me hostage. They hoped to use me to force my father into making business deals with them, which was against his principles. The island was an immoral place, a place of black market smugglers and spies. So then here, when he met Peter, and Peter's pretty friendly with his captures, right? And so Saul thinks him as a traitor, right? Because he was American, now he's smooching with the Germans, right? Until he said he helped me escape. He was a smuggler, and while the guards were under the influence of American booze he brought, we slipped away. It was a close call, and basically Saul is, shitting his pants, while Peter seems to thrive on all the thrills, right? Because that's his shtick. But then, it was the plane was damaged. They crashed somewhere, and then it says, "We're lucky to be alive. Lucky my plane's destroyed. A smuggler without a plane might be well as dead." But then the natives comes in and they want to, I don't know, sacrifice them or something, and they prepare them for the voodoo rite. We were told to press our palms against it, but it was like we hadn't had a choice because they didn't want it to happen, right? But it was basically a death sentence, right? They are marked for death, and they are shook hands because, in their short friendship thought, we're going to die anyway, so we're going to shook on it. But then when they touched hands, they transformed into Null and Void, right? There was no time to think. Peter raised his hand instinctively against the spear thrown straight ahead him, and a miracle happened. Instead of piercing his flesh, the spear disappeared when it touched him and reappeared from his other hand to impale one of our attackers. Adds. So Saul here, he says, "I'm a coward. I didn't want to die, so I ran. But then, that's why I discovered my powers. I was surrounded, but they couldn't see me. I was able to shield Peter from their sight too. We escaped into the jungle, turned normal without warning, and were picked up on the shore by a passing ship. It belonged to the writer Ernest Hemingway." What? He was running an informal operation that he called the Crooks Company out of Cuba to spite the Nazis whenever he could. My dad went on a ship too. I was going to introduce Peter to my father, but he knew him already. So even though I liked him, he was a first-class rogue. So yeah, and then, we see the events, what happened in the other issue, right? I think that's a pretty cool origin, right? I mean, it's basically way different than, I don't know, being doused in radiation or, cosmic or magic. Well, I believe it's sort of form or magic, but, it's just, I don't know, I like this origin. And so Saul is, reminiscent about that. He felt he lost his self-respect. And so then the Paperboy, do you know? Man, when I saw this, I said, hey, man, it looks like the game Paperboy from back in the day when I was younger. That was fun. Why so glum, chum? You haven't even read today's bad news. Those times, man. So he's reading the news, and then he says, what? Peter's been cleared of charges? Here he is again. I know, I can feel it. I don't like living in the shadow of the Batman. All I would take is another teamwork with Saul. Then I show Batman the stuff I'm made of. And then now it's the other way around, because in the other issue, it was Peter that surprised Saul instead of, and now he's here and he says, hey, can we talk? How about it? Would you loan me money for a new start? Not in your life, Saul. If you listen to me, you've done more of what I wanted over the years. You'll be sitting pretty. What do you want from me, Peter? You know the answer to that, Saul. I want what I always wanted, the action and excitement of another adventure as Null and Void. So they looked at the paper, and it seems that, I don't know, somewhere in the international waters, they found something. And no, it's not Captain America, because it's not. It's a DC comic. And hey, there's something familiar about that system, don't you think? Symbol. And then we see something you're probably never going to see again. Batman and Superman having an evening stroll through the city, which is pretty unusual. And then so Superman picks up the paper, and because Batman explains what happened on on Costa Rica, and Batman discovered that they are fleeing town to Costa Rica, where the iceberg thingy is, right? And he says, "There's a breaking news story. Take a look at this, Batman." So Batman looks at it, but he doesn't clearly remembers. So Superman says, "Maybe I can help you remember. Super hypnosis. Good idea." Yeah, I remember the time when Superman used that power a lot. So he puts Batman into a deep trance, plants a suggestion for that Dark Knight detective to search his eidetic memory. And then this is the symbol, right? I got it, that symbol I saw in Peter's palm while grabbing the locket away from him. So he thinks there's something up to it. You know what I like about this costume? This eyebrow thingy? I know it's supposed to be all black, but the artists back in the day, especially, oh man, I forgot the artist's name. Adam? Damn it. Neil Adams, I guess. Yeah, Neil Adams too. They are using this shadow to look like it's a eyebrow. I always liked that in the older Batman comics. So they are going to get a plane, board a ship, and as Bruce Wayne and newsman, Clark Kent, newsman, and so this Captain here, he says, "So now they have a cut a hard work. All these governors think they have a right to it. The territorial waters, property of their worlds, bilge water. We found it. It's ours." I'm not sure why I'm using this voice, because I believe these are from Cubans, I guess. So yeah, forgive me, but I couldn't help it. So yeah, Superman uses his powers to look at this, what they have found. You see this guy and also a treasure chest. I wonder what that is, right? So newsman Clark Kent says, "Hey, I'm going to do some investigating as a news reporter," right? And then Batman does that too. And so then Peter and Sol are also on board here. He says, "Peter, this is crazy. Not only are we taking on the Costa Rican government, but the Russians and the Cubans as well. Not to mention the Brits, the Frenchies and the Yanks and all the others, dear boy. At least I found us a worthy challenge of our talents. And away from the spoil sport Batman." And then Bruce Wayne comes in and he says, "Hey, Peter, old sport, it's me, Bruce Wayne." "Yes, Bruce. We met at the Monte Carlo last year, the night the casino was robbed. A shame they never caught the rascal who did it. What brings you to this floating privy, old boy?" I like the language that they are using. He says, "Hey, I came from." Basically, he's using Wayne Foundation to make a bid on the trash and all that stuff, right? And then, "So what brings you here, Peter?" "Oh, just a jaunt. I'm friendly with the local poobahs." Poobahs? "And well, it's a complicated story, quite tiresome. Have you met my business associate, Mr. Solomon?" So, and then they are shaking hands, and Batman sees, or Bruce sees, that they are tattoos. Well, Superman is going, searching for something in the waters, right? And then Batman, stalking Solomon and Peter, and he's now figured it out. So that's it. It's some mysterious power in the tattoos, right? So, no, my alarm is going off. Wait. Here we go. Sorry, guys. So they want to get the treasure, right? And then Batman comes in and says, "Batman here too? Still following me? Perfect. Now I can settle things once and for all." But then Solomon comes in. He says, "Wait. No, let's just take the treasure. This isn't time for a duel." And Batman cannot see or hear anything. But then Peter says, "Well, that was hardly sporting of you, Null. Couldn't you just let our pointy-eared friend have his sight and hearing back? Because we're not leaving till I get the chance to demolish him in a fair fight." "Peter, you're going to drive me to drink." I love these. These are so opposite of each other, but they are friends. And like I said in the last issue, it reminds me of the friendship between Bruce and Superman. They are two opposites of the spectrum, and Null and Void too, but but then on the well, they are not really evil, right? But on the criminal side of things. And so Peter says, it might loosen you up. Now, that's more like it. A duel of equals. Don't flatter yourself, said Batman. So they're having a fight, right? And Peter can fight, right? But then he underestimates Batman. And he says, a slow foot sweep, Batman. Easily avoided. Actually, it's called a roundhouse kick. But then, Batman comes in and he says, you're good, mister, but now your time has come. You'll finally push your luck too far. And then Null comes in. I knew this would happen. Well, I had enough. And then, well, because he's blind and deaf again, Peter punched him out. I warned you not to underestimate him. I could have won fairly. I could have beat him my way. His ego is getting the better of him. But then Superman uses his freezing breath, I guess, to clear the dust and the sand. And he's revealing that there is another ice. It's not a berg, but, people trapped in ice. And it looks like they come from another era in our time. Well, not our time, but, the pirate time. And they are about to touch each other. Does that mean? So he takes it out of the water, and then he's using his supervision, and he noticed that something is off. The ships are in some kind of a black hole, which not even the slightest moonbeam can penetrate. That's Null's doing, by the way, because of his powers. Weird, but familiar. So he's leaving these two here on this iceberg, on this thingy to let them afloat. So he goes back to the ships, right? And then, Batman is, still under the powers of Null. And they are touching the ice. It's not a berg. What is it then? A ice capsule? A block of ice. Yeah, let's call it that, right? But if he's touching it, it's going into the void, like maybe some in-between place, like Nightcrawler, when he's teleporting, he's going into in split second. So he's teleporting in some kind of a place. Superman comes in and he touches the ice block while Peter is just using his powers to teleport it into the void. So he's gone. And Peter didn't notice that would happen, right? Gone. We're safe, old boy. Now it's time to say goodbye to Null and Void. And he's returning to, their human selves, right? And then Batman says, it's gone. The statue and the treasure, it's gone. What happened? Where did it go? Here's someone who can tell us. Captain. So basically, Batman says, hey, this guy's a criminal, right? And Peter says, now you see her, you mask mountebank. If I stole it, where is it? Have I hidden it up my sleeve? Did I sweep it under the rug? Perhaps I stashed it in the nearest cookie jar. Come off it, Batman. Old bean, you haven't shred approval to back up your wild accusations, and you know it. So Peter played him for the second time. I like that, right? And then the crew is very unrestful because they don't know what's happening and where's the treasure and where's the ice block. And so Batman thinks, because now that thing is gone and it's in international waters, this is a bitter pill to swallow. Peter's besting me again, but this is building to something more serious. The government contesting its disappearance will blame each other. This could mean war. And then we see that, like it says, he's now into the void. Now, how does he get out of there? Well, I got the next issue, and we're going to do that, of course, into next year. Haha. I hope I can get the rest too, because I think there's a follow-up on that too, but I'm not entirely sure. Guys, like I said, last issue. So I all hope you have a great 2024 or, New Year's Eve and all that stuff. Don't drink too much, drive safely, be safe. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Bye-bye.